Welcome to May 30th, 1431, in the old marketplace at Rowan, England. Can you imagine going to a market with your family and for your entertainment seeing an 18-year-old girl being burned at the stake? That girl was me, Joan of Arc. I was born on January 6, 1412, in a small French village called Dormy, and was given the name Joan d'Arc. My father is Jacques d'Arc. He is a doyen, which means he holds the keys to a nearby castle, so if the village was to be attacked, the people of the village would have somewhere to go. He is also the leader of our village, but we are not rich people. My mother is Isabel d'Arc. She takes care of my two brothers and me. Two of my siblings were grown up and married, but I still had two brothers, Pierre and Jean. My brothers teased me and played games with me, which ended up to be a good thing when I got older. It made me strong and witty. My two best friends were Javiette and Mangiette. When we were younger, we would go to the fairy tree or maple dance where there was a festival. We would dance around the fairy tree, then there would be a big feast. When we got a little older though, we started going to the sheep fields where we would talk and spin wool. One day I was sitting in my father's garden. I had just turned 13, and suddenly a flash of light blinded me. I was terrified, and then I heard a man's voice that kept saying my name. "Papa?" I asked. And then my vision cleared and my father was not there. I was filled with fear, so I prayed aloud. Then I remembered Bible stories in which God appeared to people in visions, and I knew God had chosen me for something. But what? After my vision with God, I received more visions. This time they were of St. Margaret, St. Catherine, and the Archangel Michael. They told me that whatever I needed to know or say, they would tell me. And they did. They told me that by the end of next summer, it was already almost the end of winter, that I would crown the King of France and then be killed. But I wasn't worried. When I was 14, my parents wanted me to get married, but I refused in order to stay loyal to God. Girls were married young back then, so they could do work for men. Women were considered a man's property back then, and all they were supposed to do was work and have children. But I am a rebel. One day the voices told me that I was going to lead the French army into war against the English. So my parents told my uncle, then he agreed to take me to see Robert de Baudricourt, or captain of the loyal forces in a town nearby. Robert gave me a letter so that I could get into the castle to see the Dauphin, or the son of the King of France, and tell him what the voices had told me. On May 13th, 1412, I was finally able to see the Dauphin. I told him what the voices had told me, but he just laughed at me. So my uncle took me home, and I stayed home for a while, but then Robert gave me a horse and another letter to the Dauphin, and so I went again. On March 6, 1429, I finally got what I wanted. In April, I got my armor and a banner for war. Then I set out for the English-held city of Orleans. When my army got to Orleans, we drove back the English with sheer force. My army wanted to win so badly that the English ended up surrendering. All the French people in Orleans cheered and celebrated. We fought a few more battles, won all of them of course. And then my voices told me that I had to crown Charles VII as King of France. So my army and I quit fighting and went to Reims, where Charles was to be anointed king. Charles was anointed king on Saturday, and when he was anointed, I stood right by him. Finally, France had a king, but yet the war was not over. The English held Paris, and we wanted it back. My army and I soon left for Paris. When we got to Paris, there was a long fight, and I was injured, but we won. Then my voices told me that I was to have one more battle, that I would lose, and then be taken prisoner and killed. On May 23rd, 1430, at my last battle, I was captured by my own people, and then sold to the English for ransom. On January 9th, 1431, my trial began. After 5 long months of being prisoner and going on trial, it was decided that it was time for me to die. I was 18 years old on May 30th, 1431, when I was burned at the stake. I remember that before the fire was lit, I called for a cross, and an Englishman gave me one made of sticks. I held it against my chest, and a priest put a cross on a staff and raised it above my head, so I would have something to watch as the fire grew. Jesus, I called 6 times, and then I was dead. The English knew that they had just killed a holy person, and that they would be forever cursed. Thank you for being a wonderful audience while listening to my speech. And the next time you hear of a woman who changed history, think of me, Joan of Arc, the teenage girl who saved France.
In the body of her presentation to the voices that she heard throughout her life, to whom do you attribute those voices?
They were supposedly God and the angels and the saints who were the visions that she had seen. I guess that they were like angels and yeah.
Okay. How did you get interested in this person?
Well, during school, we were supposed to do a speech about a famous person who had done something good, and I wanted to do a woman to show that women were like, you know, and so I chose Joan of Arc because she was a woman, and back then women were supposed to just clean and cook and stuff, and so she led an army into war, so.
Amazing, especially at such a young age.
Yeah.
Tell me, for those of you who didn't see, she's given me a book that she uses for reference. Did you use anything else as your references?
Well, I used Google Images to get images of her for school, but other than that, I got pretty much everything out of that book.
And what did you learn about Joan of Arc that you can apply to your own life?
That she was young and that you can do anything that you need to, even whatever age you are.
If you're called to something, there's a reason for that, and God gives you the power to do that.
Yes.
Are there other questions from the audience? Nice job.